is the Union Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Hardeep Puri, under whose watch this project is being conducted. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Puri. Today, the Delhi High Court dismissing that petition that was seeking to stop the construction work on the Central Vista Avenue project. The court said work at the Central Vista Avenue is part and parcel of the work of the Central Vista, which is an essential project of national importance and cannot be seen in isolation. Now, many activists, urban planners from day one have questioned the use of the word essential service by the government for a Central Vista project that is restructuring the way government buildings will be in the heart of the national capital. Can you now tell us today why you and your government have chosen to use the word essential services for this grand project?
Look, first and foremost, these are technical terms used. The High Court has not used the word. As far as I remember, this is a 23-page judgment, which I am still to go through fully because I just got it a few minutes before I came on your program. They said this is a project of national importance. And they said that the Delhi Disaster Management Authority does not provide for stoppage of work. And they have said that they have been assured that necessary arrangements have been made at the site for those working, for protocols to be followed, social distancing, etc. And during the course of a press conference earlier today, I pointed out that for the Parliament building, out of the 1,300 people working on the site, workers, 900 have already been vaccinated. So let us separate the two. Today, I was waiting for the judgment of the Delhi High Court because the limited issue before the Delhi High Court was whether during the pandemic the work should be stopped. Quite apart from that, construction activity has been permitted in Delhi in any case. But I should draw your attention to the fact that construction activity was going on in Delhi in dozens of other sites, including those which my ministry deals with, which is the ITPO, for instance, which is a huge project. But our social activist friends that I, grant them that, privilege in a democracy. Anybody can go to any forum and agitate. But all this had been cleared by the Honorable Supreme Court. Supreme Court had said that we have taken all the permission, we have followed the due process. In spite of that, they went to stop this work in the Central Vista Avenue, which is a small project, 400 crores, and Parliament building, which is less than 900 crores. Total 1,300 crores project, which is time-bound.
No. Mr. Puri, you're not answering my question. Why is it that the government, through the Solicitor General, went to the court, called this an essential service? What is essential about the Central Vista project? Was it simply the timeline that you had to meet for next year, 2022, 75 years or independence? Is there something else of essential that makes this project essential for national importance, buildings for VVIPs?
No. When we went to the court, it was already after all the clearances had been provided by the Supreme Court. All the statutory clearance, everything we got. We started this work prior to the second wave. That is the point I'm making. Now, if you stop the work here or in any other construction project, in essence, you are going to lay off the workers. I mean, some contractors who have some cushion may keep the workers on, but the others will say, this is a time-bound project. I'm not going to get paid if the work stops, and I'm not going to pay the workers. So you're compounding a problem. This is quite apart from the fact that in a pandemic where you need economic activity, if you are able to create a bubble, then you need to keep the construction activity on in order to revive economic activity. Anyway, the High Court has given us a very clear thing on it, and construction activity in Delhi opened up.
Mr. Puri, as you said, construction activity on the Central Vista had started before the second wave of the pandemic. Point taken. However, the optics of the entire exercise is what is being questioned by many. That at a time when it appears that the mighty Indian state is struggling to provide its citizens with oxygen cylinders, with beds, with vaccines, people are running helter-skelter. Here is a grand project going on which costs several hundred crores. You've today given a figure for the avenue itself, which is 1,300 crores along with the Parliament building. Others say the entire grand project could cost as much as 20,000 crores. All I am saying is the optics of it seem to be, according to your critics, misplaced. They suggest this is a vanity project for the Prime Minister and the government. How do you respond to those who call this a vanity project for Prime Minister Modi?
Well, I'll respond in very simple terms. Let me break them up. Central Vista is the name of the overall project, which includes 10 government buildings where 51 government departments and ministries will be housed. It will have a central conference facility. It will have an Indira Gandhi National Center for Performing Arts on a global scale, like in Sydney or in New York. It will have museums shifting here, a Prime Minister's house, residence institutionally for any Prime Minister who's elected, Vice President's house. First point, no heritage building is being brought down. Number two, not vanity, essential. Let me explain to you. This Parliament building demand came during the Congress time in 2012. And if you were to postpone it any further, many of us would have been guilty of criminal neglect because the building is in seismic zone 4. It will fall on our heads. It is completely hollow inside and is not safe for inhabitation. That's why before the winter session of next year, when we celebrate the 75th anniversary, we need a new Parliament building. Central Vista Avenue is time-bound because of the 26th January parade. Now, all the other projects have to be designed. Vanity project, whose vanity? They're talking Modi Mahal.
Modi Mahal. They're calling it a Modi Mahal.
The head of a political party, I don't think he's any longer. He said Modi Mahal will cost 13,000 crores. You know, Rajdeep, it may well end up, I'm being cautious in my words, total project Central Vista, all the government buildings, everything put together may not be more than 14,000 crores because these are tendered costs. Number one. Number two, why are we picking on this? We need a new parliament. Same thing on vaccine. We're talking about, there's no binary between the two. 35,000 crores were set aside for vaccine. And I can tell you as a member of the GUM, if you need more money for vaccine, it will be provided. If you need money for oxygen, we have met that demand. But we don't stop activity. What perception? This is perception narrative being falsified by the Congress party and others. And now that they've scored a self-goal, they will try and find out if somebody. Rahul Gandhi tweeted, Modi ji, हमारे बच्चों की वैक्सीन कहाँ है? वो राजस्थान के कूड़े के उसके अंदर पड़ी है because of wasting 500 vials. Limited point I'm making is let's have a serious discussion where we are able to respond to issues in the public domain with a strict degree of maturity.
So that's why I've got you on the show for a serious discussion because the country needs to know what this Central Vista project is all about. Let me ask you, you said just now if Parliament building construction was postponed, it would be criminal neglect. The Parliament building needs a facelift. Agreed. No doubt about it, it needs a facelift. But it is one thing to have a facelift, but then the question is you appear to be doing a grand reconstruction, setting up a new Parliament building, demolishing certain buildings. You've today told us that heritage buildings will not be touched, but the fact is the IGNCA, the Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, is likely to be shifted. We are told that national museums will be demolished and shifted. Presumably, all of this requires some element of demolition. This will, in a way, restructure the entire area. So the question is that all required? Could you not have done this with a facelift without a complete reconstruction? The Prime Minister's residence is being moved. We are told this is a much larger project than what was envisaged in 2012.
First and foremost, even in 2012, you asked for a new Parliament building. Number one, it is not the existing building. Number two, let me educate those of my friends who deliberately choose to miss out. Not a single heritage building will be demolished. Not a single heritage building. The National Archive, the main building is a heritage building. That will stay exactly where it is. Those annexes built in the Shastri Bhavan style or others in the 60s, etc. There's no heritage tag in there. North Block, South Block will be converted into museums, but that's a long-term project. Just now, we are dealing with these in a sequential manner. The same people, the activists, turned around and said, you know, whole of Delhi will come to a standstill. Government will be working out of tents. I can point out these writings. Learned civil servants, 60 of my colleagues have put their signature on a letter which say, we believe a new parliament is being constructed because there is a superstition that the current parliament is not lucky. Where is this BS coming from? Let me again reiterate, not a single heritage building will go down. These building, new Parliament building has to be a new building because the old one
No, Mr. Puri, I will tell you where the BS, to use your words, is coming from. The BS is coming from because there has been a lack of transparency. Today, for the first time, you are openly telling us or convincing us no heritage building is going to be touched. Today, you are telling us that the Central Vista Avenue project itself is 1,300 crores. However, there are questions about the way all this has been done. People, the citizens, the taxpayer has been kept in the dark. Experts have been kept in the dark. There has been no transparency from tendering to today the nature of this project. The lack of transparency leads to what you call BS.
Not Central Vista, Central Vista
Avenue.
Central Vista. Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai, in the same room in which I am sitting now on a VC, you and I had a physical face-to-face thing where you brought up the Central Vista and you played it after a long time.
Yes.
I told you even then, I can bring the clip out, not a single heritage building will go. I have on social media, I have given hundreds of interviews. Some of us decide to have collective amnesia on that. We forget that. Let me tell you, some of these buildings are not capable of a facelift. The current parliament building, after the parliament has been shifted, the strength of parliament in the coming few years will go up from the 540 plus to 740, 750 after delimitation threshold is removed in 2026. You cannot put the people in here. Now you can either do a facelift now, run the risk of it coming down on you, and then have bunk beds or bunk seat. Member of Lok Sabha from one place is sitting here, member of Lok Sabha on his head halfway through the ceiling. Is that possible? We have explained all this. I am coming out because I was a little hesitant. I can tell you, you and I, and you are witness to this. You asked me, will you do an interview? I said, only after the Delhi High Court judgment. Look, I'm a law-abiding citizen of India, apart from being a minister of the Union, Council of Ministers. Once we have got the clip, I'm willing to sit with anyone to explain what the project is, to explain what we are doing. It's not Central Vista Avenue 1,300 crores.
So are
Parliament plus Central Vista.
No, 1 minute. Are you telling me today on this program that you are inviting your former colleagues, top IAS officers, top IFS officers to come to your office and you are willing to explain this entire project to them, which has caused so much of controversy? Are you willing to be open now?
I am issuing an invitation through your channel now to the 60 guys. I have spent 40 years of the best period of my life with some of them, and I know them personally. And I am astonished that some of them have put their signature to a letter which says that the new parliament building is being constructed because of a superstition. I am sure 50% of these eminents have not even read the letter they have signed on to. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves for having signed a letter which ascribes the new parliament building. One of these characters, I'm sorry to use a strong word, was cabinet secretary of the government. And he signed this letter. Another colleague of mine, I know when he was an ambassador or when he was foreign secretary, I know his knowledge of buildings. And so let me tell you with all
Mr.
humility that we are not hiding anything. From the day go, if we had short-circuited procedures, if we had not got permission, the Honorable Supreme Court would have faulted us. And I can tell you, I have said from the day go, look, I am willing. So if these 60 gentlemen want to come, I am inviting them. If you want to come along with them with some of your equally distinguished members of the Fourth Estate, please join us. We will have a celebration discussion.
No, we'll do that. But let me get two clarifications. One, which was raised in the petition, is that construction activities which were going on at the site were originally being done without COVID protocols being followed. It was only after the petition that the workers, construction workers, were kept on site, an element of social distancing was maintained, there was testing. Even now there are question marks, Mr. Puri, over the conditions in which workers are carrying out construction here. There are some reports that they are working in tin sheds, that the conditions are unhygienic. Questions are being raised because you are not even allowing anyone to come there, allowing any kind of photography, so we don't even know the reality. Can you give me an assurance that all protocols for COVID are being followed for the workers, because some workers have tested positive for COVID-19, including a supervisor?
Let me state categorically on the record, not only did the learned Solicitor General and the former assistant solicitor general, who was additional solicitor general, who was appearing for the contractor Shapurji. Not only what they have said, I am saying in alignment. So all COVID protocols are being followed, which means thermal testing, RT-PCR test, which means vaccinating the people. During the course of the press conference, we were asked a specific question: how many of them have been vaccinated? On Parliament, 1,300 people are workers. 900 of them have already been vaccinated. I am happy to provide that assurance, and I can tell you the reason on that photograph when it started off. We had the privilege, like we have bodies floating on the river bank, 2014 picture. Some of these photographs were morphed and photoshopped. I have said clearly today before I had the press conference, I had, when you said, will you do an interview? I said, I will first wait for the court judgment. And I also told my secretary and my joint secretary, they visited the site today, seen the work, seen the condition. I'm also going there. And look, I have an open invitation. We have nothing to hide. If there is any scope of improvement, we are always ready to tweak it. But Rajdeep, I'm making a more fundamental point. Supposing 5 months ago, we had stopped the activity. What would have happened to the 1,600, 1,700 people? They would have been declared surplus. The contractor is unlikely to have paid them their daily wages. They would have headed home. And if they were COVID positive, they will go. If anybody is found to be COVID positive, we will provide treatment to them. Right. So out of 1,600, if you said one supervisor and so, I will check this out. No, I'm glad. No issue whatsoever.
No,
but
I'm glad that
follow the guidelines and the SOPs diligently.
I'm glad that you're ready to allow the media to go there and see the working conditions of the labor. Let me also say with due regard, sir, the pictures that you just referred to of bodies being thrown in the Ganga are not morphed, sir. These are actual pictures that our reporters have been tracking of 2021. So let's not say that we are putting out photos of 2014 or morphing any pictures, sir, of this COVID pandemic. That is unfair, sir.
Possibly. No, I'm not. Not you have been. No, Rajdeep, I didn't have you in mind. I was making a general point of photoshopping. I have compared some of the pictures, they are of 2015. I've gone into the rows because, I have other responsibilities, and I also belong to a state. So let's not go into that discussion. I can have that discussion with you separately.
Okay.
All I'm saying here, some of the photographs which were shown of the Central Vista Avenue, I'm referring to those.
Let me ask you again. There has been a question also over the Prime Minister's residence. Various reports are coming out that there is a grand design which is being planned for that. The existing Prime Minister's residence at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg will be shifted to where the IGNCA is currently at the moment. Can you confirm that the PM residence is part of this grand Central Vista projects, and the kind of construction that is expected to take place suggests to some, or the opposition at least, that a Modi Mahal is being built?
Rajdeep, I have a very interesting anecdote to relate to you on this. I got up this morning, a major national daily had a front page item saying work on the PM's residence to start in August. Okay. Now, since I'm the line minister, and I don't know what your views are on what ministers do, but I'm a hands-on minister. So I called my joint secretary. I said, there is this front page report. It talks about work beginning. Is there anyone amongst us who has seen the design of the new PM resident? So she had a good laugh. She said, sir, it couldn't possibly be. She's a hands-on officer. So then I called my secretary, have you seen it? He said, the presentation has not even been made. So if your question is the Prime Minister, Vice President, see, this is the governance architecture. You have the head of state in Rashtrapati Bhavan. You will have the Uprashtrapati ji in a new place. You will have the head of government, whoever the elected head of a government at any given point of time there. But what is the grand design, whether it has 2 buildings, which is double story? I have not even seen the proposed design. Sir? When the proposed design comes, we will look at it, we will consider it. After the design is finalized, you will have to do the drawing. And then the drawings will translate into a tender. So yeah, instead of August work starting, as I said, we haven't even got the design.
No, but But Mr. Puri, all these facts can be put out. They can be put out in the public domain under, when RTIs are put out. Often the government doesn't respond to right to information. You are saying you are willing to have your the bureaucrats, former colleagues, diplomats join you, and you are willing to explain the Central Vista project. Why don't you also explain it to the opposition, particularly your predecessor in this ministry, Jairam Ramesh? He has raised several questions about the project. He says it was cleared without parliamentary oversight, without scrutiny, without transparency. Why don't you explain this to Rahul Gandhi, who has been attacking your government, to the opposition in general? Why don't you all call an all-party meeting on an issue of national importance, as you're calling it like this?
Absolutely. Why are you?
What?
You are missing the point, my friend. You're missing the point. Much before COVID reared its ugly head, I was organizing meetings with opposition party MPs. I can start naming them. The Honorable Speaker has had a meeting with MPs. The Honorable Presiding Officer of the Uppers have a meeting. But if Jairam wants any education, I've been working with Jairam for a long time. And I'm going to start reminding him. After he attacked me on the parliament, I reminded him about his 2012 article in the Hindu. The answer to your question is a categorical yes. I'm happy to have the presentation to Mr. Rahul Gandhi, to anyone, but I hope they will show me the courtesy of a little bit of receptivity to what the real facts are.
So
open invitation to all of them.
So it's very clear. It's very clear in this program. You're giving an open invitation to y'all. You are maintaining that even though you believe that this grand reconstruction project is essential even in a pandemic, and that those who question its optics and priorities are wrong. I'm going to ask you one last time. You really believe that this is an essential project, and those who question this Central Vista are badly off the mark or politically aligned? Am I correct?
They're not badly off the mark. I suspect some of them are very intelligent people. I know them personally, and in their heart of hearts it knows. But you see, when the second wave was at its peak, it was open season. Anybody who felt a sense of grievance, including friends of mine, started writing open letters, etc. Now, when they are getting to know the fact, I think some of them will be ashamed of what they've gone and done. And I'm just pointing to one small part of a letter written on 18th May. We say if reports, I'm quoting these guys, if reports are to be believed, there is a superstition that the existing parliament is unlucky. Come on. These guys are sat in the visitors gallery like me when I was secretary or joint secretary. They know what the cramped space is. They know the parliament needs to be expanded for the delimitation exercise in 2026, 1140. For them to say that this is being done due to a superstition, either the cerebral part or the thinking processes have gone completely haywire, or this is ill-conceived and malintent. I'm using very strong words, and I'm willing to back this up in a personal interaction with these people.
You have used very strong, you are saying malintent. You are suggesting that the letter drafted by bureaucrats, diplomats, including a former cabinet secretary, that all the concerns, dare I say, of various architects, crown planners who are criticizing the project, you seem to suggest it's all malintent. You seem to be suggesting that all these bureaucrats and everyone else is batting for the opposition when criticizing the Central Vista.
No, I'm not saying that. I am not saying. Well, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying that architects' objections have to be dealt with at one level. These 60 luminaries are civil servants. One of them is a former secretary environment. And what she has gone and signed on to, if she had done 1 or 2 days serious work as secretary of environment, she would not have signed that letter. It's like, telephone call, WhatsApp group. We've got this letter together. Let's ram the government. And everybody says, count me in. Arey, padh to likha kya hua? What you signed on to? You signed on to a superstition causation for a new parliament. I find it hilarious.
Let's leave it there, Mr. Puri. You're using strong words. I appreciate your joining us. You've given the government's firm point of view, and that's why I wanted you here, because we want both sides, and you've given the government side. So thank you very much.
Thank you.